They say the ones closest to you are the ones who can hurt you the most. I never truly understood that until I met Betrayal disguised as a best friend. My heart still aches from the deception, the lies, the way she played me like a pawn to destroy the life I'd built. But the thing that haunts me the most? I never saw it coming. I trusted her. Isn't that what best friends are for? To be your confidant, your support, your second voice when your own feels too weak? But looking back now, I realize she wasn't just a friend. She was a thief, waiting for her moment to take everything I held dear. I was 24 when I married James. He wasn't just my husband, he was my rock, my protector, my safe place. Our love wasn't perfect. Whose is? But it was ours, built on years of friendship, laughter, and shared dreams. And then there was Rachel, my best friend since college. We'd been inseparable from the moment we met, bonded over late-night study sessions and endless conversations about life and love. Rachel was vibrant, charismatic, the kind of person who could light up a room with just a smile. I trusted her with my life. When the cracks in my marriage started to show, she was the first person I turned to. James and I had been arguing more, about money, about work, about the little things that pile up until they feel insurmountable. Rachel listened patiently, nodding at all the right moments, her eyes filled with empathy. "You deserve better," she said one night, her voice soft but firm. "You're too good for this. James isn't making you happy anymore. Maybe it's time to think about what's best for you." Her words felt like a lifeline, a validation of the doubts that had been gnawing at me for months. I started to wonder if she was right. But the thing about doubt is that it's a slippery slope. Once it takes root, it spreads like wildfire, consuming everything in its path. I began questioning everything: James's love for me, my love for him, the life we'd built together. And Rachel was always there, stoking the flames with her carefully chosen words. "I just want to see you happy," she would say, her hand on mine, her eyes brimming with concern. "You deserve someone who worships you, who puts you first. Don't settle for less." Her words were intoxicating, a heady mix of support and subtle manipulation. And I, blind to her true intentions, drank it all in. The fights with James grew worse. Every argument felt like proof that Rachel was right, that my marriage was a sinking ship, and I was clinging to a life raft that wouldn't hold. I started confiding in Rachel even more, sharing every painful detail, every tear-streaked confession. Looking back, I can see it now. The way she would press for details, the way her questions always seemed to guide me toward one inevitable conclusion. But at the time, I thought she was just being a friend. One night, after yet another argument with James, I found myself at Rachel's apartment, a bottle of wine between us. "You can't keep living like this," she said, her voice low and urgent. "You're killing yourself trying to make this work. Sometimes letting go is the bravest thing you can do." Her words hit me like a gut punch. Was I really that unhappy? Was I holding on to something that was already gone? "Maybe you're right," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. The next few weeks were a blur of confusion and heartbreak. Rachel was by my side every step of the way, helping me draft the letter I left for James, offering her couch when I couldn't bear to go home, reminding me over and over that I was doing the right thing. "You'll see," she said one night, her arm draped around my shoulders. "This is the start of a new chapter for you. A better chapter." I believed her. God, I believed her. It wasn't until weeks later, when the dust began to settle, that I started to notice the cracks in Rachel's mask. The way her sympathy felt rehearsed, the way her support felt just a little too calculated. And then, the bombshell. I saw them together, James and Rachel. Not by accident. No, she wanted me to see. It was in the way she clung to his arm, the way she looked at me with that smug little smile. "Don't be mad," she said, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. "I didn't plan for this to happen, but you left him and, well, you know how life is." My world shattered. All the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, and I realized the truth. Rachel hadn't been my friend. She'd been my enemy, hiding in plain sight, whispering poison into my ear until I'd done exactly what she wanted. She hadn't advised me to leave my marriage out of love or concern. She'd done it so she could swoop in and take what was mine. The betrayal cut deeper than I ever thought possible. I had lost my husband, my best friend, and the life I'd built, all because I trusted the wrong person. But here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just destroy you. It remakes you. I wish I could say I confronted her, that I tore into her with all the anger and heartbreak I felt. But the truth is, I didn't have the strength. Not at first. Instead, I turned inward. I started rebuilding, piece by painful piece, finding myself in the wreckage she'd left behind. And one day when I was ready, I did confront her. "You didn't just betray me," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "You stole from me, my trust, my happiness, my life. But you didn't break me, and you never will." She didn't respond, of course. What could she say? Her actions spoke louder than any words ever could. As for James, I wish I could say he came back to me, realized the mistake he'd made. But life isn't a fairy tale. He stayed with Rachel, and I let him go. Because some things, once broken, can never be fixed. I don't tell this story to gain sympathy or to paint myself as a victim. I tell it because it's a cautionary tale, a reminder to guard your heart, even from those you trust most. Because sometimes, the people closest to you aren't friends. They're wolves, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Would I do things differently if I could? Maybe. But one thing is certain. I'll never let anyone play me like that again. In the months that followed, I learned more about myself than I had in years. Pain has a way of stripping you down to your core, forcing you to confront the parts of yourself you've ignored for too long. For so long, I'd defined myself by the roles I played: wife, friend, partner. But who was I without those titles? Who was I now that the two people I trusted most had betrayed me? The truth was hard to swallow. I had let it happen. I had allowed Rachel to influence me, to plant seeds of doubt in my mind and water them until they grew into a forest I couldn't escape. I had ignored the red flags because it was easier than facing the cracks in my marriage, in my life. But acknowledging my mistakes didn't make Rachel's betrayal any less cruel. She wasn't just a thief, she was a master manipulator. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how calculated her actions had been. She hadn't just waited for my marriage to falter. She'd pushed it to the edge. Every piece of advice she'd given, every supportive word, had been a thread in the web she was spinning around me. She hadn't cared about my happiness or my future. She'd cared about taking what she wanted no matter the cost. People started to talk, of course. Whispers followed me wherever I went. At work, at the grocery store, even in my own family. Some people pitied me. Others judged me, blamed me for letting my life fall apart. And then there were those who sided with Rachel, convinced by her charm and lies. It was humiliating, isolating. But it also lit a fire inside me. I couldn't control what people said about me. I couldn't undo what had been done. But I could decide how I responded. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, I poured my energy into rebuilding. I went back to school, taking night classes to earn the degree I'd put off for years. I started therapy, confronting the wounds I'd ignored for far too long. And slowly, piece by piece, I started to feel like myself again. Not the woman I'd been before, but someone stronger, wiser. Rachel, meanwhile, seemed to thrive in the chaos she'd created. Social media posts of her and James flooded my feed. Pictures of them at fancy restaurants, on romantic vacations, even at the house that used to be mine. It was like she was rubbing it in, daring me to react. But I didn't. Because here's the thing about people like Rachel. Their happiness is a facade, a mask they wear to hide the emptiness inside. The turning point came when I ran into James at a coffee shop. It was the first time we'd seen each other since the divorce, and the sight of him was like a punch to the gut. He looked tired, older, as if the weight of his choices had aged him overnight. We made small talk at first, awkward, stilted. But then, as he started to walk away, he turned back and said something I'll never forget. "I'm sorry," he said. "For everything." It wasn't much. It didn't erase the pain or undo the betrayal, but it was enough. Enough to remind me that people are complicated, that love and loyalty don't always look the way we expect them to. I didn't need James's apology to move on, but hearing it gave me closure. It allowed me to let go of the anger I'd been carrying for so long, to finally release the hold he and Rachel had over me. I wish I could say Rachel got what she deserved, that karma came for her in some dramatic, satisfying way. But life doesn't always work like that. As far as I know, she and James are still together, living the life they took from me. And that's okay, because their story isn't mine anymore. I've learned to focus on what I can control: my happiness, my future, my peace. I've made new friends, built a new career, and even started dating again. It's not always easy, and there are still moments when the past sneaks up on me, when I wonder what might have been if things had gone differently. But those moments don't define me. What defines me is the strength I found in the aftermath, the way I chose to rise from the ashes instead of letting them bury me. If you're listening to this and you've been through something similar, I want you to know you're not alone. Betrayal can break you if you let it, but it can also remake you into someone stronger, someone unshakable. Trust is a fragile thing, and once it's broken, it can feel impossible to rebuild. But it's not impossible. It just takes time. Would I ever trust someone like Rachel again? No. But that doesn't mean I'll shut myself off from the world, from new friendships, new love. Because if I've learned anything from this experience, it's that letting the pain define you is the ultimate betrayal of yourself. So here I am, standing tall, looking forward instead of back. Rachel may have taken my husband, but she didn't take my soul. And that, more than anything, is what makes me the victor in this story.